Welcome to another movie plot and enjoy the memories. We open in England at a bed and breakfast owned by the sisters Mary and Eve Trent. Scottish archaeologist Angus excavates a giant serpent skull out of their front lawn, assuming that it's from a dinosaur. It's found in the ruins of an old Roman snake-worshipping convent and takes entirely too long for them to realize it's from a giant worm. Especially considering that every year this village celebrates a local legend who was said to have slayed a giant white serpent called the Dampton worm. His descendant James is skeptical to believe the song that immortalizes his ancestor and just puts up with these traditions for the clout. Angus and James strike up a friendship while we learn that the sisters are mourning the mysterious disappearance of their parents last summer. Eve stays at the party with her kind of boyfriend while Angus brings Mary home to find the nosy constable Ernie waiting for them inside. He's found the missing father's pocket watch and invites the pair to join a search party heading to the area in the morning. He then goes to inspect a place called the Temple House, which is supposed to be empty, so upon seeing a light inside, Ernie calls for backup. Just then a snake bites him on the ankle and the intruder is revealed to be the owner of the property, Lady Sylvia. Her interactions are laced with double entendres, like how she says she was hibernating for the winter and changes cars as often as a snake sheds its skin. It's made obvious that she's the movie's villain by all of the creepy sound cues, despite Sylvie sucking the venom from the constable's leg. She learns that the Trent sisters are still searching for their missing parents, so pays them a visit in the morning while they're out. They really should learn to lock their doors, as the intruder just wanders through all the rooms until her eyes light up at the sight of the skull. Having a deep connection to the creature, she steals the serpent skull, then bears her own set of fangs while spitting venom at a crucifix. Sometime later, when James drops Eve off at home, she touches the snake lady's spit and experiences visions. In a tableau of blasphemy, Christ gets violated by a large serpent while nuns are ravaged by Roman soldiers at his feet. Eve explains that she saw the same snake and cross imagery from Angus's excavated convent, who soon arrives back to find his skull missing. He and Mary didn't find anything while out searching for clues and remain here to look after the traumatized Eve while James returns home. He passes the young hitchhiker Kevin, who's picked up by the neighbor Lady Sylvia, who continues to whip out all the innuendos. She says that you're going to catch your death out here, then takes the boy to the Temple House, where he pulls out his best moves in a game of snakes and ladders. When Kevin busts a chord on his harmonica, Sylvia begins to dance involuntarily like a snake being charmed and needs to snatch it away. Back in control of the situation, she gives her meal a good clean like you would a vegetable before revealing her fangs and biting off his carrot. At least I think that happens, but either way Kevin's now paralyzed and needs to listen to this priestess going on about sacrificing him. Her god is the giant pale snake from the story of the Dampton worm, which was really slain by James's ancestor, but Diana has been reborn. All of this monologuing's interrupted by a knock at the front door, so Sylvia dunks the dinner and meets the bane of her god for the very first time. In light of Ernie's snakebite, Damptons come around to unironically cut Sylvia's grass, as he says that's the reason for all these damn serpents. She invites James inside and he practically just takes over Kevin's place in having drinks with the mysterious woman around the fire. However, when she makes a bad joke about the sisters' missing parents, James gets up to leave, so Sylvia activates the waterworks. She claims to just be terrified of the Dampton worm, which was James's nickname in high school, then gives him a weird little hiss-kiss. That night the young Lord Dampton watches some scary movies and dreams about the nearby Stonerick Cavern, the rumored lair of the original worm. He enters the cave and boards a plane with Lady Sylvia alongside the whole Trent family, including the missing parents. Sylvie feeds them venom as James does the snake word, but when she makes it around to him, Eve shows up to the rescue. Take these metaphors however the hell you want, but the girls wrestle around on the ground, causing James to show us his red felt tip. He's suddenly given a choice between two flirty legs, one with a glass of poison and the other wearing Eve's crucifix ring. It doesn't really matter which one he follows off the plane, as James just wakes up to a loud bang anyway. His butler Peters has arrived to save us from whatever just happened and tells James that the search party has been called off. That matters not to our plot, as the Scooby Gang just continue searching the cavern for the parents and find a rather interesting painting. When they feel hungry, Eve leaves by herself to get their forgotten lunch, but she comes across Lady Sylvia just hanging around. She hypnotizes the Virgin and takes her back to the Temple House, as the giant snake god prefers meals not to be soiled by penis. They even show Sylvia talking about Eve being religious just to explain why this 30-year-old woman has never been exposed to the real Dampton's worm. She's made to strip while the priestess waves around a fertility wand and makes her call home to throw the sister off her scent. Before Eve can tell Mary that she's getting on the next plane, the little Jesus on her ring snaps her out of it and she shouts Diana. Lady Sylvia spits a mouthful of venom in her face to end the call, but that's enough for the group to get suspicious. Angus recounts that Diana is a snake god, which is enough for James to correctly theorize that Sylvia is behind this by her slippery attitude. While Peters rigs up some large speakers, James plays the old Turkish classics in an attempt to charm the Serpent Lady out of her home. Not only does it work, but Sylvia sleeps in a wicker basket and grooves her way over to the neighbors while Angus and Mary break in. They find the sisters still living Mother Dorothy watching movies, but she's a snake vampire thing and needs a stick of fire to piss off. Mary's bitten, triggering a crazy vision of her getting humped into oblivion, needing Angus to suck the venom out of her neck to recover. He then calls James to warn him about the vampire invasion, but it's too late as Dorothy's already there and cuts the lights. She leaps out of the shadows in slow motion, giving James enough time to pick up a sword and cleave her in half like his ancestor did the worm. Peters has been murdered and the mother's torso returns, but the next time we see James he's fine, so I assume that he just kicked her head off. The next morning the bitten but still human Mary is picked up by Ernie, who says that James is under arrest for murder. He claims to be bringing her to the station but takes Mary to Temple House instead, where she thinks screw this and tries to run. The constable traps her inside the estate grounds and reveals his new fangs, but Angus arrives with his bagpipes of protection. It's funny that these vampires can be hurted by a simple wind instrument, and Angus pushes Ernie onto a sundial, killing him. He then goes marching into the Temple House with his bagpipes and a pet mongoose, which is highly effective against snakes. This one, however, is immediately killed by the blue-painted Sylvia, who takes a bite out of Angus's leg. She was using earplugs to block out that horrendous music and drags her paralyzed prey into her underground lair. Mary's tied up while the priestess prepares to sacrifice her sister by dropping Eve into the mouth of the great white worm. She intends to give her some pointy ritual stick thrusts first, but Diana complains like a big baby, so she just skips to the feeding part. It waits at the bottom of a pit, probably starving the poor thing, but as Sylvia begins to cut the bindings, her venom wears off on Angus. He musters up the strength to shove her over the edge, where she hangs from Eve's leg, wishing she was one of those vampires who can fly. Instead, Angus just slices her hand off and the great white worm consumes its own priestess, who probably tastes like rubber since this thing prefers virgins. Angus directs the sisters to the exit, and they may not have any guns, but he pulls out the next best thing, a holy hand grenade. He drops the most random item in the movie directly into the snake god's mouth, destroying it in a fiery explosion. The second most random item in the film is this cure for vampirism that Angus just so happened to acquire off-screen. During these events, James searched the caverns with a group, and we could hear his voice from the ritual chamber since these tunnels connect. I expected him to arrive and save the day, but instead he just spots the smoke coming from Temple House afterwards, having missed out on all the fun. He discusses with Angus how he was never even arrested by Ernie when their meeting's interrupted by a sudden phone call. A nurse from the hospital informs Angus that they sent him arthritis medicine instead of the antivenom, which is something I get wrong all the time. He still chooses to go out for lunch with James, but the freedom that comes with wearing a kilt also allows for upskirts, revealing the vampire's bite. And the movie ends.